We're going to discuss the author's purpose. First of all, a purpose is just another word for a reason. So when you ask, what's the author's purpose? You're asking, why did the author write this? What's the point? What's the end goal? So the definition of author's purpose is the reason he or she writes. The author's purpose can fit into three general categories: to inform or to give information. An example would be a scientific article. To persuade or to convince someone to believe something. In this case, an example would be a politician writing a speech to convince you to vote for him or her. Or three, to entertain. This last category is probably the most fun. This is why we read thrilling novels and watch good movies. The most important thing you need to know, though, is that quite often these categories will overlap. I want you to write down each of these purposes. The first purpose we're going to look at is to narrate a story. An example would be The Hunger Games or To Kill a Mockingbird. The authors are telling stories with characters, dialogue, and plot twists. The second possible purpose an author might write is to amuse and entertain. Comedians have to prepare their comedy shows by writing their jokes down. When they do this, their purpose is to amuse and entertain their audience. A third possible purpose an author might write is to express one's feelings. Perhaps this is most clearly seen in songs and poetry. The whole point of music is to express your feelings, and a significant percentage of poetry is to help process human emotions. Another purpose an author might have is to explain and inform. If you have ever written an essay in science or history, you most likely wrote to explain information. If an author is presenting facts, his or her purpose is to explain. Doctors often write articles in order to convince people to get vaccinations. When the doctors do this, they are attempting to persuade people to take action. Remember, there are many subcategories to the three overarching categories, which are to inform, to persuade, and to entertain. This purpose, to explain a step-by-step process, is a subcategory of informative writing. The author's purpose in writing a recipe down is to give information, but more importantly, it's to give information through explaining a step-by-step process. The seventh possible purpose of an author's writing is to give reasons as to why his or her opinion is right. In this video, we're going to watch a young girl share a speech that she wrote in an attempt to promote the rightful use of guns. Her goal is to persuade her audience that she is right.
I'm 15 years old and I've been shooting for almost 8 years. I've also been a part of the Maryland Rifle Club and Maryland State Rifle Team since I was 11. We shoot semi-automatic AR-15s and my personal rifle is a Bushmaster. Because of this, I have become eligible for various shooting scholarships around the country to a wide array of even the most prestigious colleges that have shooting teams. Achieving stricter gun control laws would obliterate any opportunity I could have had to attend a decent college on a shooting scholarship. Ever since I first learned how to shoot, the issue with gun violence around the nation became clear. Guns are not the problem, people are. Purging our society of violence and murder cannot be done through gun control legislation. By signing this legislation, you are not signing away gun violence, but instead liberating American citizens of our constitutional rights. You are not eliminating guns from society, but eliminating our ability to protect our lives, liberty, and pursuits of happiness. Chicago, Illinois has had some of the strictest gun control laws in America enacted for the past few years, and it is currently more than twice as likely for you to be killed in Chicago as in the Afghani War. For the past 11 years and 4 months in the Afghani War, 2,166 people have been killed. Now in only 8 years in Chicago, 4,265 people have been killed, and 3,371 of them were from being shot. Is that really something we want to model our state laws after? Now, even of those 3,371, only 37 were killed with a rifle, which is barely 1%. 98% were killed with a handgun, so creating gun control legislation that targets assault rifles has statistically proven to only weed out less than 1% of the problem if you're lucky. I'd also like to point out that none of the guns used in the Chicago shootings were registered or licensed to the people who used them, thus even further proving that simply restricting guns will not stop criminals from using them, nor will restricting guns stop criminals from harming others in general. On December 14th of 2012, the same day as the Sandy Hook shooting in central China, a man stabbed 22 children and 1 adult. Guns are not needed for mass murder, and robbing American citizens of our rights to own them won't solve anything. You must also consider the fact that the majority of gun violence occurs in low-income neighborhoods. Raising the overall cost of owning a gun through higher licensing and registration fees denies the ability of low-income individuals to protect themselves against the crime focused in the areas they live in. Passing this legislation would be discriminating against these lower-income individuals who are actually at a higher risk of being victimized in crimes. To abolish or severely limit the right of the Maryland residents as a whole to bear arms, which is the intent of the proposed legislation, is to essentially defeat the purpose of our own U.S. Constitution. The entire foundation of the United States was formed on the principle that the government, our government, is a government of the people, for the people, by the people, and taking away the people's right to bear arms is taking away the people's power in the government. The Second Amendment, which grants to citizens the right to secure their natural rights, is the backbone of our democratic society. I hope you all consider these points as you go to vote on this or any other gun control bills.
The 8th possible purpose is to influence someone's political opinions and vote. In this video, Obama is trying to influence you to vote for him. That is the sole purpose of this political advertisement.
Over the next 4 months, you have a choice to make. Not just between 2 political parties, or even 2 people. It's a choice between 2 very different plans for our country. Governor Romney's plan would cut taxes for the folks at the very top, roll back regulations on big banks, and he says that if we do, our economy will grow and everyone will benefit. But you know what? We tried that top-down approach. It's what caused the mess in the first place. I believe the only way to create an economy built to last is to strengthen the middle class, asking the wealthy to pay a little more so we can pay down our debt in a balanced way, so that we can afford to invest in education, manufacturing, and homegrown American energy for good middle-class jobs. Sometimes politics can seem very small, but the choice you face, it couldn't be bigger. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
The 9th possible purpose is to criticize, critique, or debate. If you have ever looked at the opinion editorial section of a newspaper, you'll see that there are many different opinions out there. When authors write back and forth and publish their conversation, they are writing to criticize, critique, or debate. Of course, this all fits under the umbrella category of to persuade, which is their ultimate end goal. Keep in mind that there are many possible reasons an author might write something, and we have looked at several today. The last one we're focusing on is the author's purpose to describe in detail a person's life. This fits under the category of information, but it's specific information. It's biographical information. Remember, a biography is a book about a person's life. In the first book, the author is describing Walt Disney's life. The second is about Sadie Brower Neacock, and the third book details the events in Albert Einstein's life. Let's recap really quick. An author's purpose is the reason he or she writes. Every possible purpose can fit into the category of to inform, to persuade, or to entertain. And many times they can fit into multiple categories. For example, a comedian may write a funny skit about rude people, but his humor may be the vehicle he uses to persuade people to be kinder in life. The possibilities are really endless. So, next time you are reading a book, watching a commercial, or reading a newspaper article, ask yourself, what is the author's purpose? Why did he or she write this?